So after a couple years of this work, we had a pretty good idea that we could display the tent and be responsible stewards of it, make sure that it was protected. But that still left the questions of where would we display it and how would we present it to the public. So the first question of location, we had a couple models available to us. Now, probably the closest analogy to Washington's war tent in terms of a large American history textile would be the Star-Spangled Banner. Of course, many of you will have visited the National Museum of American History in Washington and will have seen the Star-Spangled Banner on display since it was conserved and reinstalled about a decade or so ago. You'll remember that it's in a case that actually looks very similar to the case that's behind me here. But the way you approach the Star-Spangled Banner is down a corridor where the light levels are gradually brought down to adjust your eyes to 5-foot candles of light. That's about the amount of light, if you got into your bedroom closet and closed the door, the amount of light that's coming under the door, probably about 5-foot candles. But as you know, if that happens slowly, you adjust your eyes, you can actually see fairly well in low light. That allows a museum to protect the object and still allow you to see it. And so for the Star-Spangled Banner, you go down a corridor, you experience the object, and then you go back out another corridor where the light levels gradually come up so you're not blinded by the light when you come out into the atrium of the museum. I would call that a kind of static display option. So we explored that idea with Washington's war tent. We did an architectural study that would have, we calculated would require about 6,000 square feet by the time you accommodated the size of the tent enclosure and then the ingress and egress of those corridors. Now keep in mind, we have about 16,000 square feet of core exhibition space. So, you know, a little bit under a third of the square footage would have been taken up to display Washington's tent. And that, of course, makes a big impression on the kind of story you could tell in our core museum exhibition. The other concern that I had was that the Star-Spangled Banner is a flag that all of us sing about at sporting events, at other public gatherings. We have an inherent sense of drama and emotional connection to an American flag, particularly one that's experienced a very traumatic period in American history. Most of our visitors would not arrive with any knowledge of George Washington's Revolutionary War tent. And there were some skeptics who said, you know, I wouldn't make too much of the tent. After all, it's just a tent. So I wanted to make sure that our visitors really understood the importance of this object that they were seeing, that this became a kind of character in the museum. And so that suggested the power of film as a way to prepare people emotionally to encounter this object. And so that's why we ultimately made the decision to present Washington's war tent in a separate theater, the Allen B. Miller Theater, in a small, intimate setting here. It's about 100 seats. It's a very small, intimate theater. And the presentation begins as a straight linear piece of excellent filmmaking, but then gradually reveals the tent as a character until it's fully revealed at the end of that 12-minute film. It's an experience that leaves many of our visitors with tears of gratitude and joy for the sacrifices of our founding generation, and with a sense of civic purpose, of them taking on the burdens, responsibilities, as well as the rights of being a citizen who's engaged in keeping our republic alive and free.